Caregiving requires preparation. We prepare for doctor's appointments, we prepare medication, we prepare for those meals, and even we prepare for the schedules. But what happens when the doctor says, who has the authority to make this decision? Or you show up at the bank and they say, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. Well, today, we're going to be talking about one of the most overlooked areas within the caregiver ecosystem: legal preparation. And we're sure that when you leave here, you'll leave with clarity and a sound mind.
Welcome to Grace to Care. Take a breath, pull up a chair, little laugh, little truth to share with Grace to Care. Together for the ones who hold it off through the late calls, long hauls, coffee cold on the counter again, but your heart keeps showing up, my friend.
Welcome to Grace to Care. I'm Fern Sapp.
And I'm Jessica Banner, and we're here having conversations on the grief, the grit, and the gift of caregiving.
Reminding you that in caregiving, you're never meant to walk this journey alone, because we are Grace to Care. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my goodness. Y'all see, we got somebody on the set on today, and I want to tell you exactly who she is. First of all, she's an intricate part to what we're going to be talking about today, because throughout this entire season, we've just been exploring ways and bringing in resources to help you to connect with those inside of the caregiver ecosystem. And today we're realizing that there's this spot in legal planning that we need to know. So that's why we're excited to welcome today's guest, Amber Saunders. She is an attorney. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a CEO, and she is the founder of the Saunders firm, where in that space she's able to help families and individuals protect what matters most. That is through estate planning. And so, Amber, welcome to Grace to Care.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, we're so glad to have you. So, Amber, let's talk, because we say that on here we're going to have conversations, and conversations on the grit, the grief, the gift. You heard Jessica say it. And I want you, before we even get started about this caregiving and this estate planning and all those other good things, I want you to tell the people who you are, right? And not just tell them who you are. I also want you to tell them what caused you to get to this space where you had to help to navigate through life and financial and legal matters.
Thank you for having me again. So it really was because of my family. So my grandmother, her biggest fear that I remember growing up was she always said that she didn't want to lose her memory. My mother she says that. I remember her saying that to us, and lo and behold, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So she had a stroke or something when I was I don't know the exact time, because I was the only granddaughter and I'm the only child, and so everybody told me stuff late. Because they did not want me to panic or whatever. So I don't know exactly when. I'm sure I got the news late. Sure. But she had a stroke, and I guess because of what a stroke does, it does something to your brain, whatever, and it later on it developed into dementia, and then she was finally diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so she had everything taken care of beforehand. So she had my mother and my uncle as her power of attorney, her healthcare agent. She had long-term care insurance. She had all these things. Because she was so concerned about that happening, she didn't want to not be in her house. She didn't want to be put in a home. Like, she had a little, I don't know if it was, did she cut our finger and make us be blood pack that we weren't going to put her somewhere? And so I just watched all of that. And my great-grandma, like this house that we had in Boston, everybody died in that house. My great-grandmother was upstairs. She passed away there. She's the one who purchased the house in 1964 and passed it to my grandmother. Wow. Her son, my grandmother's brother, Uncle George, died in that house. My grandmother, my grandfather, my step-grandfather. Like, at the end, we had her husband and her ex-husband in the house. She didn't know who anybody was at that point, so it was fine, but we didn't want to put anybody in the home, because that's what she didn't want to happen. Wow. And so my uncle moved back, took care of them from upstairs in Gregor's unit, and literally everybody passed away. And then, we ended up my mother had to go to probate court, because probably a few months after my grandmother died, my uncle died. And so then my mother had to go through probate court because of that. And so I watched them do this. I wasn't licensed in Massachusetts, so I couldn't do anything. But watching my mother have to, literally, there's only myself, my mother, and my cousin on that side of the family left. Wow. Because everybody passed away in these short years. And just watching how people, like, grief is not something that ever goes away. And then watching them have to take care of her. If my grandmother didn't have that long-term care insurance, it was my grandmother didn't do anything we said. You got to eat this. She was like, I'm not doing that. If we tried to get her to do something, she was like, no. When Nurse Amanda came in, my grandmother was compliant. I was like, are you sure she doesn't know what's going on? Because I feel like a little bit, she might know. She's just playing in our face.
Isn't it funny how that works?
I'm like, how are you? Okay, never mind. Just as long as she keeps coming. And so she took care of everybody. If my grandmother didn't have that, I don't know that what we would have been able to do, because she really would not do what we said. Wow. And so watching my mother have to navigate that, my uncle, how difficult it was for them to see their mother that way, and like have her not listen to them or fight them for every little thing that they were trying to get her to do when they were trying. It was just hard for them. And I didn't understand why my grandfather or none of them had done anything. My grandmother, if she hadn't done it, it would have been a hot mess. Wow. And so it just made me want to help people figure out how important that is and how much easier it makes it for your loved ones when you already have it in order, so they don't have to figure it out after the fact.
Wow. We thank you so much for sharing that with us. You know, it's so funny for all of us how our experience fuels passion, and I can really hear that in you, that this story and this journey that your family went on fueled this passion for other people. And, you know, kind of want to talk to you some about, in caregiving, it's so easy to get so focused on caring for our loved ones, we kind of forget to plan for ourselves, you know, and even sometimes they haven't been planned for. So why is estate planning important for everyone, not just wealthy families or older adults?
Because you literally cannot do anything or change any account unless something is written down to give a person authority. Your loved one will have to go to you as the caregiver. If you are taking care of someone and they have not given you power of attorney, giving you the authority as their healthcare, you're going to have to go to probate court. And then when you go to probate court, it's an adversarial proceeding to some degree. If you're trying to take or become guardian over someone, they're going to appoint a guardian ad litem or a lawyer for them. They're going to serve them. And you don't know how they'll respond to that. It can be difficult. They just need to designate who's going to be in charge. It makes everyone's life easier. When you go through probate court, you have to file inventories. You have to give them reports. So on top of all of the caregiving you're doing, now you have to report to some judge or pay for a lawyer or do all of those things when all you're trying to do is take care of your loved ones. And so it will simplify your life tremendously. And then you need it for you so that if, God forbid, something happens, you can be taken care of. And what if something happens to you while you're in the midst of caregiving? Who's going to take over? Right. So if you don't have those plans, it's like, you know, I grew up in Georgia, and literally I felt like every month we had a tornado drill. I've never been in a tornado, but I know what to do. I know where to go in the house. I know where to get under the table because we had to do it all the time. It's the same thing.
I say the same thing.
You have to prepare for these things, even though it might not happen. Hopefully it doesn't. But if it does, then everybody knows where to go. Everybody knows what to do.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
It's so important because one of the things that happens is, as caregivers, we find ourselves taking care of everybody and everything until the things that are really important, I find that they just get pushed back, right? We start pushing them and say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll never forget when we sat down and we did all of our sessions with you. I was like, wow, this is important that people really get prepared. So I really want you to take some time and help our caregivers to understand, because when they hear, and for those of you that are listening, I'm doing air quotes right now, right? So when they hear air quote, estate planning, close quote, right? They often think about the fact that it's just a will. But I want you to talk about this and help them understand what are some of the key pieces that have to be included in estate planning, and understanding it's not just a will.
Right. So telling someone what to do with anything that you own is a part of your estate planning. So what to do with my body, I want to be cremated versus not. I want to not be on life support. I want this kind of burial. I want this kind of service. All of those things are a part of your estate planning. And you need to tell someone what to do. And I think sometimes people avoid it because it's like dealing with your own mortality. Nobody wants to talk about dying.
Yes.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to go to heaven. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
yes.
there's a step in between there, right? And so we got to get there. And so saying, like the healthcare directive, saying who's in charge if I can't communicate what my desires are for my health, and also just having that conversation with your loved ones. I remember my mother was diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer, and I'm an only child, and I'm an only child the way you think of only children. I don't even want people calling my mama because she's my mama.
Okay.
None of that. Like, she belongs to me. My daddy is mine. He's not
Right.
yours. All of that. And so she told me, "Oh, I don't want to be on life support." I was like, "So, you think I'm going to tell somebody? You're going to have to sign this. You're going to have to sign this and give this to the doctor because I won't."
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Yes.
Now, there are all sorts of other, I will be fine if they do it because it's your decision, but I don't want to tell anyone to pull my mother off of anything. You're not going to make me live with that for the rest of my life that I did it.
Yes.
Even though I know that's not logical, humans are not logical. Let's be clear. We're not.
Oh, that's good.
And so I know it's not right. And I know it's selfish, and that's all right. I'm okay with it. Get somebody else to do it. But if we did not have that conversation, then I would have had her in the living room with me watching Law and Order forever.
Okay.
And she would have been in there mad or
Yes.
whatever was going on.
Yes.
So, like, what a living will, who gets to decide all of those things? A will, yes, that's a part of it. Maybe a trust. Telling people if you want a service or don't. Do you want to be cremated? Like some people, I've had so many couples come in and the wife wants a service and a burial and the husband's like, just put me in a box or just do whatever. And he's like, I don't care. I don't want you to have to spend a lot of money. And she's like, well, what do you mean it's not about you? And so just simple things like that people disagree on that they won't have a conversation about. And then not to say you'll be there to know, but at least you can work through so that people are honoring your wishes. And so it's just about having the conversations, putting it on paper so everyone knows what to do. Because I've found that when something happens, people can follow instructions. But if you ask them to make a decision, it makes it harder if they don't know what you want.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's all, to me, it's also the kindest gift you give the people you love, is give them instruction. Because when people are in that state of crisis, they're not in their best decision-making space because they're in the emotion of the fact that they love you so much. So it really is a gift you give each other. So big. And I thank you so much for sharing that. And if you had to think about one or two documents that become especially important for caregivers, who may be making medical or financial decisions on behalf of somebody they love?
I think that those power of attorney and healthcare directive and a living will, if they don't want to be on life support, are extremely important. As well as, I mean, those are the main ones. If you're taking care of someone and you need to move them from facility to facility, make those decisions, you have to have that. And you won't be able to get anything. You won't be able to get anything done. And then it can be a delay trying to go to court to do that after the fact. So those if you do nothing else, go get those tomorrow. And then if your loved one is able to communicate and any of those things, just finding out exactly what they want so that you can do it. I mean, again, and I go back to because my family is the reason for all of this. Like, I remember the day my mother got sick. I probably didn't make any money that year. Like, I just was walking around like a zombie. I would be driving down the street and bursting into tears. And then she's like, can you go do this? And then I had to walk down the hallway and try and get myself together. It was the hardest thing in the world for me to try and still function as an adult and take you to the doctor and watch them pulling on you, doing whatever. So if I didn't know what she wanted, even though I was still falling out, it wasn't in her face, and so then I can try and do those things. But if I had to decide what to do without her telling me step A, B, C, D, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know how you do it because it's just, you can compartmentalize to some degree when you have a list of instructions.
Right, but only so much.
Only so much.
Only so much, yeah. And that's so good because we hear these terms a lot as adults, right? Power of attorney, living will, and you're so right. People are not willing to have those conversations so often because fear of death, and we don't want to think about that. We'll put that off till later. But you've done such a good job today, like just helping what are those terms and why is it important to know what those are.
I love it. I love it. And the biggest takeaway that I hear you saying just in this segment is that it's not just about preparing documents, but it really is about preparing your family. And that's so important. And you're right, having those conversations, because they absolutely do matter. They do.
Absolutely. So stay with us. When we return, Amber's going to talk to us about some common mistakes families make and how caregivers can take simple steps to strengthen the legal side of their caregiver ecosystem.
Caregiving changes everything, and that's why we've created our Grace to Care affirmation journal. It's available in both English and Spanish versions.
The pages are filled with encouragements, reflections, and gentle reminders that you are not alone.
Just a few minutes a day can allow you to have the time to pause, to reflect, and to really just stay grounded.
And to get your copy, you can get it at gracetocare.com or the link in our bio.
Well, welcome back to Grace to Care. Today we're talking with attorney Amber Saunders, and we're talking about why it's important to get all of those legal things together for your estate planning. Now, Amber, thank you so much for really breaking it down and helping us to understand what estate planning really is and what it really includes. There are times sometimes, though, when people really do get stuck. And so what I want you to help us to understand is, what are some of the most common mistakes that people actually make or families make, and what simple steps can they take to avoid them?
I'd say the number one mistake I see people make is not wanting to decide. I had someone come in the office the other day, and she said, I don't care if I'm buried or cremated, they can decide. No. You need to tell them. You need to make a decision and tell them, because people will fight about it. People will disagree about what to do, and you are leaving room for conflict for other people. If you do not decide what you want, flip a coin if you need to, but decide so that you can give the guidance to others. The other mistake is probably waiting too late. I mean, they'll come and start the process, and then when we start digging in, because we ask a lot of questions, people will disappear, and we have to chase them down for 6 months. Or something will happen to someone else, and they'll be like, okay, I need to get back on this, because just looking at, and I mean, it might be because I ask a lot of questions. We know we'll ask a lot of things. And so it's like, okay, well, what do you want? And so it might force you to go back and have a conversation with your spouse about what it is, or have a conversation with your children about who can really be in charge. I know I can't be in charge of anything at all. So then, then who's the alternative if it's not me and I'm the only child or whatever it is? So people will take too long because they get analysis paralysis, and it's like, you can modify the documents later. You can but get something on paper now, in the interim, and then if it evolves over time, then it evolves over time. But don't wait. So one, letting other people decide. Two, not wanting to make the decision, and three, and I think three, sometimes people are extremely hopeful about how good people will behave. Yes. But you see the worst in people when someone gets a divorce and when someone dies. And so people have to take stock and be realistic about family, about conflicts that have been unresolved, about all of those things, because you can prevent further conflict by really laying it out on the table and allowing whoever you're working with to try and make sure that the documents can prevent that. But if you don't want to, sometimes you just have to show them yours, show them all the bad stuff so that they can try and mitigate that in the documents. So those are the major ones.
I love that you're helping us, and it's not creating this space of fear, but it's really getting us in